Alright, in this class we'll focus on taking this mesh closer to the image reference. We need to start seeing Batman on this mesh. In that way, we would get a mesh for creating our superhero. Keep in mind, it's very important to save and keep this type of mesh. That's what we call a digital asset. By saving this mesh, I could reuse it for future characters. In that way, I wouldn't have to create a base mesh for every single character. Basically, after making the third from that option on, I simply reuse this mesh. It wouldn't make sense to make another one. This is about productivity, trying to work as fast as possible. Okay, let's get started then. I need to check if this Batman is lower from the left lateral view. Yes. Over here, it seems to be lower compared to this one. It may cause some issues. Next, we proceed adjusting the shape of the body, and then we adjust the legs, and by then, we'd have the base mesh. So, let's proceed adjusting from the draw panel. Let's see. It seems these ears are not at the same height. Almost, but quite not there. I think that view should be upper. So in the draw panel, let's head to left, right. And on this vertical offset, we'll locate the image properly. In this case, I move it a bit upwards, just a bit. I think this portion of the head is at the same height as this one. Over here, the ear stands out over this line, as this ear does over here, so it should work now. In this case, since we are not sculpting something so technical, such as a car or anything similar, so our visual reference doesn't have to be that precise. Okay, what I'll do then is to, for convenience, I normally take the panels a bit farther. Over here we've got something really important, which is these projections. When hover over on the mesh, watch, I hover over this vertex. I'll add another subdivision by hitting Ctrl D, and I'll scale a bit this draw size. What happens when I hover over the but on a vertex, for instance, on this front portion, ZBrush shows us this vertex corresponds to this portion over here, and to this portion over here of the character. So that will let me visualize what's the location of one portion on the image references. Let me check something here. Hold on. We're getting a problem with the reference which will complicate our job later on. And is the fact that this reference is on perspective view. If you can see here, the legs are not aligned. This portion of the character on this side is higher than the back portion due to the perspective, but we'll sort that out during the process. Sometimes a couple of things won't fit, but we'll normally have references from front and lateral views. When we get views with no perspective, everything matches perfectly. But probably we'll use a reference for making the biceps based on this image, and also check this image. We should always try to check both images. That helps a lot. So let's get started. Let's select front in order to make the mesh a bit transparent, and basically I'll need at this point the tool move. It could be move topological or normal move. Remember to press X in order to enable symmetry, since sometimes when I forget about it, I move one side and then the other side won't match. We could fix the mesh, but it would be a waste of time. Alright, let's proceed. So set the brush kind of big and start adjusting the shapes, trying to follow the reference. But it doesn't have to be exact. We'll include the muscles later on, and that will provide more volume. So we just need it to look a bit closer to our reference. Alright, over here on the chest, the dorsal, actually from the front, it should be closer to the serratus. And on the back, it should be closer to the dorsal. At this point, we don't have to worry much about being precise, but we start shaping the mesh and start feeling some satisfaction, which helps to avoid getting tired and too soon. The character starts to take shape, and that is a motivation for keeping on sculpting. Notice, for instance, it is too wide on this area. If sometimes you notice it matches on one side, but it doesn't on the other one, it doesn't really matter. Later on, we can adjust the background with offset if we want to, but sometimes the mesh might be a bit twisted. I tend not to be so perfectionist at this stage. Alright, let's shape the mesh for the lateral view. I simply move the shapes accordingly, taking them closer to the reference. And for the back, I disable front and check the result I'm getting so far. On the back, I pull the back a bit. Notice I get the projection, which we can use without having the need to use the same view. But the projection helps me locate the mesh. Over here, I'd like to add the shape of the back and also the hip by pushing the lumbar a bit inwards. These characters are quite muscular and they've got a thin hip. Let's pull this a bit outwards in order to shape the chest. Alright, let's take a break and we'll continue with the next class where we'll shape a bit the legs. We'll retouch the whole mesh. See you on the next class.